Many blessings, everyone. My name is Verdaluz Celestial, and this is Aulitz. And we are checking in today for Divine Timing Coaching. I'm a life and business coach and an astrologer, and bringing you a super fascinating topic today, one of my passions in astrology and an area I focus on, which are called the asteroids. And if you haven't heard of the asteroids, that's cool. This is going to be a little journey into the asteroids of Donald Trump, and this is going to reveal how powerful these asteroids are in giving us very specific storylines in our birth chart. So the asteroids are located between Mars and Jupiter. There's thousands and thousands of asteroids. Many of them have been named mostly just by astronomers. And what's really crazy is that we have asteroids named after geographical locations like Washingtonia or Berkeley or Paris. And then we have famous people like Cleopatra or Einstein. Those are asteroids. Then we also have personal names like Kathleen, and even weird stuff like beer is an asteroid. So we have a lot of different things like that. And of course, we have the mythologies of the Greco-Roman traditions, Egyptian traditions, Norse traditions. We have Freya, we have Isis. We have all of these different Persephone. We have thousands of them, and we can put them all into your birth chart. And this is a very specific way to understand the mythologies, the storylines, even places and people's names that are very important to you. Your own name is likely an asteroid. So what I'm going to show you here is we're going to look at Donald Trump's chart, and I'm not going to show you the chart with all the asteroids because there's too many, but we're going to look at a list of them. And this is something I pull up for my clients as well. And I'm going to go over a few of the key asteroids. Now, there's many of them, and I just was blown away with this. So I think you will be too. Let's take a look here. So there's Donald Trump's chart, June 14th, 1946, 10:54 a.m., Queens, New York. And then I pulled up the list of these asteroids, and what they are they're in zodiacal, what we call zodiacal order, so the order of the zodiac, and I have them in 90-degree angles to each other, so it's like a square relationship. So when we work with asteroids, we, as astrologers, we have to use a small orb, which means like an asteroid within 1 or 2 degrees. Sometimes I look even within 3 degrees of another planet. And then we put that together. So we combine, for instance, Venus with another asteroid, or the sun, or the moon, or even an angle of the chart, like the angle of career, or the angle of partnership, or the angle of the personality, the ascendant, or the angle of the home. So obviously, the tighter the aspect, 1 degree or less, we know that's very, very significant. As we get larger in the orbs, then it becomes almost like there's too many points. So I'm going to mostly list asteroids that are really pretty close, within 1 degree of these planets in Donald Trump's chart. But there's a couple that are a little wider degree, and I'm just going to mention them because I think they're interesting. And you know, in my research, I like to have a wider orb because it gives a larger storyline that's going on within us. So we're going to just go down the list a little bit here. The first thing you're going to see right off the bat is this Washingtonia here. So Washingtonia, and let's bring it back here. Washingtonia is at 2 Cancer. And if we scroll down, we're going to see Neptune here. Neptune is at 5 Libra in Trump's chart. Now, what that means is that Washingtonia up here, again, is in a square, a 3-degree square to Neptune. Okay, so, and there's a lot of others you can see in here. But what's really fascinating here is, you know, the quality of Neptune. Neptune can bring confusion, deception, a fog, uncertainty, and in a square to a point, there's challenge from that Neptune. So then we have Neptune and Washingtonian, Washington, being in square. So could this be the deception of even getting the office, how that took place? Of course, it could be what's behind the scenes that none of us know about, all of the hirings and firings. So that's kind of fascinating there. Also, some of the glamour of being, in Washington. Neptune can kind of rule some sort of that cinematic glamour, and some of that idealism as well, of being in like the Oval Office and being, Neptune rules the media. So here you have in Trump's chart, Washington and Neptune coming together, and it's like using the media, social media especially, to broadcast about what's going on in Washington. So I'm going to move very fast through these, but you can fill in more of the gaps yourself. And I'm working mostly with what we call hard aspects, which create more dynamism, more tension, more events in our lives. And this is the conjunction, when two planets are in the same degree or close to each other in the same sign of the zodiac. And then the square, which is an angle of tension or conflict or challenge, but there's reward potentially with a square. And then an opposition is more of a kind of a tension, a polarizing effect that we have to learn to balance in our life. Those are called the hard aspects. And if we go down, this is one of the most fascinating in Trump's asteroids right here, which is Mercury. So we know he's a very mercurial person, always communicating, tweeting, wearing many masks. He is a Gemini, sign ruled by Mercury. The shapeshifter, sometimes the liar and the thief, Gemini can wear that as well. But with Mercury, his planet of communication, ideas, language, information, his Mercury is conjunct Mexico within, just this 20 degrees of arc, or the same degree of the zodiac. And one of the first things he talked about was building this wall to Mexico. It's always on his mind. I was just kind of blown away to see Mercury conjunct Mexico, and Mexico is going to pay for this wall and all of this stuff. So his Mercury is with Mexico. His mind's going to be there. He's going to communicate about it. His Mercury is also with two very famous cities in South America, Buenos Aires and Rio de Janeiro. Now, these are the largest cities in Sao Paulo is also big in Brazil. But this is kind of fascinating. We would think that then Mercury, there's some kind of information, communication, maybe even business going on. Mercury can rule exchange. He was the god of trade, Hermes, the bartering god. So what's going on in Buenos Aires and Rio de Janeiro? Well, you can do a quick Google search. And there was plans to actually build a tower in Buenos Aires, but apparently that's not happening. Trump, the emperor with no clothes, says this article, January 13, 2018. So you could do a little research yourself to see that there was these plans to build a Trump Tower in Buenos Aires. Now, this is actually quite fascinating, because if you go over to Brazil and you see that the LSH Hotel, formerly the Trump Hotel, Rio de Janeiro, is a hotel in Rio. The hotel was announced in 2014 as a joint project between Donald Trump's company and LSH Barra, a Brazilian-based developer. Then you have some articles here, why the Trump organization was cited in a Brazil corruption problem or probe. Trump Towers Rio. So this is the actual photo you can see here. Let's just pull it up for 1 second. But here we have Mercury, ruler of trade, business, negotiations, right on Mexico, Rio, and then Buenos Aires. And there it is, the Trump Towers in Rio. I mean, larger than life, just like in the States. And we're going to see why, because, he has a lot of asteroids related to kingship in his chart as well. So let's pull back from Google for a minute. And we're going to go down to the next planet here and just check out Jupiter. And I don't know if we'll see it in the list here, but I added a few personal names. And one of them in my notes that I have here is that Jupiter, let's see if we can find it here, is square Melena. Very, very close to Melania. So Melena, personal name. And of course, Melania is his wife. There it is, Melena, 19 Cancer. And his Jupiter is at 17 Libra. So about 2 degrees square. And so there's a connection. And, between the personal name and his Jupiter. Jupiter brings expansion, inspiration, growth, opportunity, a sense of faith. So, we could see that maybe that there brings some joy or a feeling of fortune and abundance by having her in his life. Sometimes we see that the personal names are very, very close to our own, spouses or kids or significant people in our life. So very fascinating. Then we go down a little bit more here and we see Saturn. And Saturn is interesting here, is at 23 Cancer in Trump's chart. And right there we see karma. So the fruits of one's actions, karma, action itself being connected with Saturn. And, Saturn, professional life, being in sort of the mainstream consciousness. Saturn kind of rules that. Government, and the karma of government and law, Saturn rules. So he has some kind of karma that's brought him to that point. We could say that he might be having all kinds of karmic retribution for his actions in the in government, in law. There's a lot with that. Then we could look at Saturn actually squaring King, the asteroid King, at 24 Libra. So, in traditional astrology, back in the ancient world, Saturn was kind of known as the king planet, the archetype of the king. So we have that connection here, kind of double symbology here. But that, being in the position of government, and in the role of President of the United States is very close to being kind of, the king. And he's giving all of these laws. And so we have, the king karma with his Saturn, which again, Saturn is how we structure our consciousness. It's what we have to discipline and persistent in our life. It has a lot to do with our professional life. So being the king, playing out our karma, quite fascinating to look at those two archetypes there associated with Trump's Saturn. Now, then we have Venus. And if we go down a little bit here, we see that Venus at 25 Cancer is squaring very interesting parts of the chart and opposite a very interesting part. There is an asteroid called Pecker. We know that refers to the male phallus. And it is opposite his Venus. And it's well known that, he's on record talking about this and all of the kind of sexual forays of Donald Trump. So I'll leave that as it is. And then you have Israel and China, both conjunct each other at 27 Aries in his chart. These are asteroids, Israel and China. And they are in a square to his Venus. Venus being personal relations, sense of affection, intimacy, but also our values and what we find beautiful. And so there's a square. So there's some kind of tension with Israel, which most of you will probably know that, again, if we go back and we can just look this up real quick, but that, Trump basically proclaimed that, let's just put Trump Israel and we'll see the, that there was that whole announcement about recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and that we were going to relocate here you have, is Trump abandoning Israel? There's a lot going on with Syria right now in this. Moving the what was it called? Trump was going to be moving the embassy. There you go. It's blanked out. Embassy to Jerusalem. And there's a lot of that in the news, a lot of tension around that, got a lot of flack for that. So that's that square from Venus. And then if you go Trump, China, we could see that trade war. Trade war is a big theme right now. This is just a couple days ago. I'm shooting this on the 15th of April, 2018. And you could see these sanctions, China caught off guard by unpredictable Trump. So there's tension between China and these ideas of trade wars going on. So that's that Venus square. Venus also has to do with money. So yes, Mercury is the god of trade, but when we talk about money, we also bring in Venus. So again, we have that theme coming in. And then here's where it gets really interesting. Pluto. So Pluto is coming up right here, down here. Pluto is with Paris, 1 degree away, 10 and 9 degrees of Leo. So we all know that one of the biggest moves of Donald Trump was pulling out of the Paris Accords for climate change. One of the only major countries in the world, biggest countries in the world to do that. Got a lot of intense reaction from around the world. You know, with Pluto, it brings up all of the shadow and the unconscious in us. Pluto rules that domain. And also power struggles, control issues. And there was protests about this. There was all kinds of chaos and upheaval going on. And actually, the asteroid chaos is quite strong here in Trump's chart. We're going to get to that in a second. So we have Pluto conjunct Paris, and that there is a drama around that. Pluto can bring that in, but definitely this theme around power, that and literally the power of the planet. You know, like what are we going to use? Are we going to use wind and solar? We're going to use coal, right? Are we going to use renewable energies or not? Pluto is definitely connected to those themes, and it's on his Paris. Now, it's interesting, too, because the Paris as an asteroid, one of the descriptions is that it gives, some courage to someone, but a danger of poor judgment. Paris was a Greek mythological figure. You could study more about that. I'm not going to go into it here, but he was a Trojan prince. Here we have the prince and the king again coming in. You know, that kind of kingdom being a theme in Trump's chart. And the name Paris means backpack. But chaos and violence may be incurred against one's homeland as a result of short-sighted or selfish decisions. I'm going to read this again. Paris, the asteroid, may give a powerful instinct for survival as well as courageous and helpful attributes, yet a danger of poor judgment. You may serve as a judge or arbiter of a quarrel, ultimately to the detriment of themselves and others. Chaos and violence may be incurred against one's homeland as a result of short-sighted or selfish decisions. So Paris is conjunct Donald Trump's Pluto. Now, we also see these, it's just fascinating. I'm just kind of blown away. And this is why I bring the asteroids into my personal readings with clients, because there's just a lot of undeniability here, especially as we go down and we see Mars, you know, at 26 Leo in his chart, right with Amenhotep and also with Arthur. So Amenhotep is a conjunction, Arthur is a conjunction, right to his Mars within 1 degree. Who is Amenhotep and Arthur? Well, we know King Arthur, of course, so there's the king again. A kind of mythical, larger-than-life figure, just like Donald Trump is. We have Amenhotep, who was also known as Akhenaten, who you may know was kind of a rebellious king of Egypt. He was known as the king who basically brought in monotheism and the worship of the solar disk. So the sun, it's kind of the sun god, and this tradition of sun and monotheism being connected. Well, this is kind of like Donald Trump and that sort of figure of like kind of the solar god, the solar king, the Egyptian god king, pharaoh king, with his Mars, with his desire nature, with his passion, with his aggression, with his desire for his motivation in life, his Mars, and also his defensiveness and aggression. It's connected there with this Egyptian pharaoh. So again, there's lots there, and even America, 28 Leo, is right on his Mars, which is not just on his Mars, but it's on his ascendant at 29 Leo. So you have Mars on his ascendant. If you've studied his chart, you know that can bring someone who is quite powerful in the collective, especially, again, Leo. Leo is the king. Leo is the ruler, and that's his rising sign, and it's Mars. And then you put America there. So he brings Mars to America. Aggression, division, conflict, challenge. He's also activating it, and he brings some entrepreneurial spirit to it. That's the high side of Mars, motivates some people. He's definitely activating energy. But you also have that America on his ascendant, so he's going to be, representing America. The ascendant is our mask, our outer personality. It's just fascinating. We could just keep going and going. I think I'm going to cut it short here, just a minute. We have also Zeus, another king of the gods, opposite his ascendant. So on his descendant, the angle of partnership. Zeus was kind of above them all, and Zeus was also known for having his affairs with mortals and immortals alike. That you could read about hundreds of affairs that Zeus had, and Zeus is on Trump's angle of partnership, other people, lovers. So he's kind of like Zeus. He could do what he wants and not get the retribution for it. So more to say with that, but Zeus very dominant. So you get these kings and these gods and these pharaohs just everywhere in his chart. And then I gotta just show you this one here, which is involving his sun and his moon, which are close to his nodes. But we're going to talk about this. Here's the sun, here's the moon, and what do we see here? Moscow. This asteroid was named for Moscow. And here is 22 Virgo, which is in a direct square to his sun at 22 Gemini, and his moon at 21 Sagittarius, and also the points of destiny, karma, evolution, soul wounds, etc., the north and south node. This is very, very strong. So there's destiny unfolding, there's emotional turmoil, emotional reaction, and life force, vitality, identity, ego self, the sun, all with Moscow. This asteroid right here, very, very close to all of those 4 points. I'm going to stop right there for today. There's many other points of the chart. Oh, I mentioned chaos. Chaos is also with the sun and the moon. Where did it go? Oh, come on. Where are you? I know it's there somewhere. But the chaos is somewhere here with sun and the moon. Oh, there it is. 24 Pisces. Okay. So it is in a wide square, 2-degree square to his sun and moon. So he becomes the vital presence and brings this kind of emotional energy that brings a lot of chaos, because the moon is our reactive nature, and the sun is our how we identify in some ways. So as a figure of chaos. I hope this has been enlightening and revealing for you of how powerful the asteroids are, and that you will take them quite seriously, that we could do a reading sometime and look at the asteroids in your chart. It's just been it's so fascinating, and I want to inspire you to do this deeper work, because you can see the level of specificity that comes in with the asteroids. Personal names, places, famous people we're connected to, and the mythologies that are running through us. So this is Verdeluz. This is Aulitz. Verdeluz Celestial for Divine Timing Coaching. And we'll check in with you again soon. Namaste.